Hello and welcome back to the United Devils podcast. This week we're going to be discussing United's bounce back against Southampton after a dismal draw with Arsenal and looking ahead to their next couple of matches at home against Everton in the Premier League and West Ham in the FA Cup. With me today, I welcome back Suraj and Joe. And obviously we should start with a game we didn't mention, which was the Sheffield United game, and a really disappointing result. But because it was quite long ago, we're just going to talk about the main thing, which was that PGMOL have come back and said that the decisions they got wrong, resulting with Sheffield United's opener and United's disallowed equaliser, were the wrong decisions. They should have not upheld the goal that Sheffield United scored, and they should have given United the goal that Martial scored, which was controversially disallowed due to a quote-unquote foul by Harry Maguire. Suraj, do you think this is one of the very many examples of how Varchester United is just a myth?
I wouldn't say it's a complete myth as well, because last season we got a lot of dodgy decisions go our way. But off late, I think specifically since Jurgen Klopp's comments that United have been getting a lot of penalties, we've barely been getting anything. So Manchester United were never the most favored team by VAR. Last year we got a lot of penalties, but I think it's safe to say 95% of them were just spot on. Like they were 100% penalties. And we haven't had a lot of decisions go our way off late. I think after the Aston Villa game, almost everything has gone against us. I never quite believed in the Manchester United. And when it comes to non-penalty goals, Manchester United are the highest in the league. So we've done everything without penalties this season, at least most of it anyway. I think it's a myth. And in general, if you look at it, VAR has given ridiculous decisions to a lot of teams and taken away good opportunities from a lot of teams. I think it's just Premier League in general, which is being concentrated on Manchester United as usual, because, well, that's what you get for being the best club in England.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's just sort of the idea that, well, we've got to scapegoat someone, so why not the team that's doing really, really well and was almost a shock really from the start of the season. So why not give that as the reason, as opposed to praising the players or the manager or anything like that? Anything logical. Let's just find some other route. But let's talk about specifically the decision they got wrong. Joe, do you think? I mean, even from not being a referee for many years, we could tell that both those decisions were inconsistent with each other. Sorry, do you wanna take that one? I think we're having some technical issues.
I missed the last part of your question. Could you repeat that?
Oh, so just the well, I mean, both the decisions they got wrong, they were contradictory, because obviously the foul that they missed from Billy Sharp was one that they picked up on from Maguire, and of two different levels.
Yeah, absolutely. That I think for me, that game just highlighted the inconsistency, not in VAR as such, but in English referees. They're just making it as they go along. Like, okay, fine, oh, this one's a penalty, or that one's not a penalty, that's a foul. So that game has made me think that even they don't know what's going on, or they just refuse to. I don't know, that sounds illogical, right? That they see something that is a definite foul, or something that's not a foul, and then giving it. Similarly, Maguire's header against Fulham was a brilliant header. It should have stood. But again, for some reason, that's a foul. And I think even a lot of pundits who usually don't take United's side, they came out and said that's a goal. And even Peter Crouch said, if that's not a goal, then half of my career goals are invalid. So I think that issue is going to be there until. So here's where I think that VAR aren't the issue; it's the English referees, because I think that the way they use VAR in the Champions League and even Serie A is on a much more sophisticated level, and I think This has been happening for a long time. The FA really need to look at the referees, and I can't name a single good Premier League referee at the moment. All of them are really bad. So is I think someone sitting in the FA has to just put their foot down and say no. Next season the standards are going to change. There has to be some change. We can't go on like that.
No, absolutely. I think you've hit the nail on the head there. I think the thing is, a lot of people, a lot of pundits I see, especially the ones in the BT studio after the Southampton game, really just used VAR as the issue. They said, "Oh, VAR's done this wrong. We've been unable to use this properly." But VAR isn't the issue. VAR is using essentially a video to see if there have been mistakes. The people that are looking at the mistakes are the referees. The referees are the ones that are giving the bad decisions. So I think that's where really the criticism should lie. So hopefully that is then finally realised after a year and a half of questionable decisions. But we'll have to see. I mean,
because next season, if there's an offside call, there was offside, and someone goes on to score the league-winning goal with it, and then everybody would be like, "Oh, if VAR was there, they definitely ruled that out." So that way, VAR is necessary, but it's just the people handling it.
Absolutely, I think that is really the big issue, and I mean, it's just something that we're going to have to sort out one way or another, either by getting in new referees, maybe externally, not English referees, or maybe they're just going to have to get better through a really tough period, but we'll have to see. We'll move on to the Arsenal game because it was a game really that was almost must win after the result against Sheffield United, and so they had to actually perform really, really well. And unfortunately, while they defended very well, I thought the midfield played quite nicely, if not the best with passing, shifting the play. The attacking was really shoddy, sloppy, and then the chances we did get, we missed. Joe, I mean, what do you put that down to? Would you just say bad day at the office, or do you think there's something that's fundamentally wrong with our attackers in that game?
No, I mean, there's been question marks about our attack since for a while now this season, I think, to be fair. I mean, Marcus Rashford's stats are very good, but actually you look at some of his performances watching the games and you're not wholly convinced. Obviously, Martial's been struggling for goals and form as well, which has obviously been a worry for him. And then obviously that then puts the burden squarely on Cavani at the moment. And, you know, at 33, 34, he will score goals, but he won't be able to do it every game. And if you do look at, if there is one weakness of Cavani's game throughout his career, it has been his finishing, to be fair. He's not always been sort of the best sort of converter of chances. So, you know, if it's all on him to score sometimes, United are going to struggle a little. But I think what happened with that game is they were coming off the back of that defeat against Southampton that nobody could see coming, really. I think it took, as much as it took the media by surprise and us supporters by surprise, I think it really took the players by surprise. And I do think if they'd have got a positive result against Sheffield United, I think, I'm not necessarily saying they would have beat Arsenal because they have struggled against Arsenal in the last couple of seasons, but I think we'd have seen a much more positive performance, a performance with more confidence. And you'd have to say, with the way that the game panned out, that probably would have been enough to get us the 3 points.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate when these things happen, but I guess the fact is that, you know, our players are human. It's a long season. They're obviously going to have highs and lows.
Yep.
And unfortunately, this was another bad one against Arsenal, really, because it is a strange stat that we've failed to beat them every single time in the Premier League since Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was the manager. And in fact, we haven't beaten them since 2018 in the league, which is, I mean, it's a long time, especially since Arsenal have been probably in the worst form in their history. It just sums it up, really. But I mean, taking away from that, I think the fact is that our defence was solid once again. Luke Shaw was brilliant. Wan-Bissaka was chipping in with a few auxiliary striker positions at the end of the first half. I mean, that header was slightly awry, but it was still. I mean, the attacking intent was certainly there, and it reflected really in the performance against Southampton, which we'll get on to now, because I think dwelling on the Arsenal thing really shouldn't have to eclipse something that was so brilliant midweek. Of course, going down to 10 men is obviously going to cause an issue, but teams go down to 10 men and then we struggle for a draw. They put all 10 men behind the ball and make it really frustrating. But United managed to not only carve out an opening, but score 4 goals in the first half and then another 5 in the second. We'll just sort of talk about, we don't have to talk about each and every goal. We'd be here for an hour and a half, but we'll talk about the attacking intent and mentality. Joe, what do you think that's more the players that have come in, the manager, a bit of both? I mean, where do you think this change really has come from?
Yeah, no, there has been a bit of a sea change in the mentality and the attitude of the players. I'd agree with that. I would say a lot of it's come from the manager, to be fair. I have to say that. And the reason that I say that is because I think United have now scored 5 or more goals in a game 8 times under Ollie, which is, I think, is like much more than obviously Jose and Louis van Gaal managed previously, and even David Moyes. I think it's more than those 3 put together, obviously. So, I think there's obviously, you've got to credit the manager a little bit. And also, I was thinking the other day, how many times after a game when United have just won narrowly or even won by a couple of goals, you'll hear Solskjaer saying in his post-match interview and his press conference, I'm disappointed we didn't get more. There was opportunities there to score more goals. I've heard him say that lots of times. He's been disappointed that they haven't kicked on and finished games off, and they've almost been hanging on at the end. I think Sheffield United at Bramall Lane earlier in the season was a good example when we were 3-1 up. There was opportunities to win that one 4-5, 6-1, and they didn't quite do it. So I do think it's a lot to do with the manager, and I think he has to take a lot of credit for it, because you've got players there at the club that for the last sort of 5-6 years have actually been told when they get 2-0, 3-1 up, look, just shut up shop. Let's hold what we've got. If you think about the managers that we've had in that period, Louis van Gaal, Jose Mourinho, they're not the type of coaches sort of slash managers that want you to necessarily go and beat teams 5-6-0. You know what I mean? They tend to like to get a couple of goals up and then you hold what you have, if you know what I'm saying. But I think Solskjaer's wanted us to be more ruthless since he's come through the door, and I was really impressed to see it. I've got a group chat with some friends, and on Tuesday I was saying at half time, if this was Manchester City or if this was Liverpool, 4-0 up at half-time playing against 10 men, they'd be ruthless here, and that's what we've got to do. If you want to win a title and you want to challenge for titles, you have to be ruthless in these games when you get an opportunity. And it's difficult to see whether it's something that will continue as we go on, because it's not every week you're going to play against 10 men for 88 minutes. That's inconceivable that will happen against Everton. But what isn't inconceivable is that, like at the weekend, for example, they could find themselves 2-0 up in the first 20 minutes, half an hour. Then again, can they go and do it again? Can they repeat the dose? Can they go and put Everton to the sword instead of keeping it at 2-0 or Everton grabbing a second half goal and making it nervy? Can United go and make that 3 or 4-0, and be ruthless again? And that's what, you think about this Manchester City team over the last 2 or 3 years. That's what they've done so well. They put teams away when they've had the opportunity. They don't mess about in games. They've won ample games by 4 goals or more. So I think that's, where United need to get to. That's the mentality they need to have if they want to take that next step in their progression.
Absolutely. I think that is that. I mean, that's how titles are won, really, being ruthless, being clinical, making sure you make every goal count. And obviously 9 goals has made the goal difference between us and Man City a difference from 14 to 5. And that I mean, we know all too well how goal difference between us and Man City can win or lose a title. So, I mean, it's going to be crucial, hopefully, at the end of the season, provided we are still in a title race. Obviously, with 3-point gap right now, and they've got a game in hand, so it could be extended to 6, but we've got to make sure we take advantage of the difficult run they've got in the next few games. But going back to the Southampton game, the second half, was a chance for a couple players came on 45 minutes in, after 45 minutes even, and then after half an hour, 50 minutes of the first, 50 minutes of the second half even, Dan James came on as well. Martial needed some goals. James got his goal. Van der Beek played brilliantly. I mean, Suraj, do you think that was a really good morale boost for the players that did start in the second half?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that also puts to rest the notion that these players are frozen out of the squad and will never get to play, because when the circumstances are right, they will get to play, and that's what happened. I mean, I still understand Dan James' situation, but I think Van der Beek should be playing a little more uh, than coming on in the second half when the game's already won. Anyway, but yeah, it's definitely a morale booster, because I think one thing I noted after the game was that it wasn't a, say, Rashford masterclass or a Bruno masterclass where 5 or 6 goals were scored by one player. Like when we beat Blackburn, I think back in the day, and Berbatov scored 5 of those goals. I think we beat them 7-1 or 7-2 or something. Uh, so this wasn't that. 9 out of the 14 players that featured for Manchester United that day got on the score sheet, either as a scorer or they provided the assist. So I think it was all around a team performance. And what it did put to bed was the fact that, people say that United and Solskjaer rely on individual brilliance to win games. I think that's been completely smashed now, because everyone did their job well. And even those who didn't get on the score sheet, I think one of them is De Gea, so I think you're not supposed to count him anyway. Uh, Even the others who didn't get on the score sheet played very well. Fred went from centre midfield to left back, and he played well on both sides. Uh, so in general, yeah, like you said, a morale booster for everybody, including the people on the bench, the manager, all the players, the fans. It basically just puts out the message that yes, this is what Manchester United are capable of. And yeah, people will say that, oh, they had an injury-ridden squad and they were 10 men. But we've faced teams, not just us, but Liverpool, City, everyone. They've faced teams that have gone down to 10 men or had a lot of injuries, but they never won 9-0, did they? So I think in general, it is a very good statement to put out.
Absolutely. I think the thing is that a lot of people almost tried to discredit the result just with the fact that controversial red card for Bednarek, which has actually now been overturned, and the fact that was it a penalty? Wasn't it? I thought it was a penalty, but not a red card. But it definitely was a penalty. He did stop Martial from trying to score; otherwise, he would have just put the ball in the back of the net and got himself a hat trick. So I think it is really questionable why you question the people's methods to say why they would dismiss the result just because of that moment at 6-0 anyway. So there is that, but I think the fact is that the players played fantastically. The football was brilliant. The crosses into the box were vintage United attacking plays, and it really did show that this team, like you said, isn't about individual brilliance. It's a team that all wants to get on the score sheet and kill off the game. And hopefully we can replicate that against Everton and West Ham to come.
Can I just say, Arjun, on the red card as well, especially the first one, I'm not being funny, but when people want to analyse and criticise United for losing 6-1 against Tottenham earlier in the season, I don't remember, you don't hear a lot of people referring to the fact that Martial was sent off quite early in that game with the game even at the point. So, I think people will talk about red cards and influencing games when it suits a narrative, when it suits an agenda, and obviously, people are hesitant for some reason to give United a lot of credit after Tuesday, so they want to talk about the red cards. But I remember people just being full of praise for Tottenham when they beat us 6-1. I don't remember people having to caveat that by saying that Martial was sent off, and that's all I've got to say on that, really.
To be fair, I don't remember a lot of that because I was just trying to avoid football over that whole international break after that. Yeah, you're bang on. Yeah, and they don't remember the fact that we didn't have a pre-season either, and that was literally our fourth game total since Europa League. And it's amazing how agendas do try and squeeze their way out of actual mitigating circumstances, but that's just how it is, really. And I mean, the fact is, we're still in the title race, Siraj. I mean, do you see us being, match week 37, we're still in with a shout, or do you see us maybe even being further ahead than we expect?
So here's something that I have been doing that fans haven't been. I mean, they probably do, but this is something that I've been doing differently. It's just after so long, United have been winning games consistently and putting in results. I'm just enjoying each game as it goes, and I'm not even looking at the title because I think at the moment, even if I look at the Premier League table and I can make predictions, but it's not going to go that way. At one point, I thought Chelsea were going to win the league, and at one point, I thought Spurs are going to win the league. Then after that, I thought, okay, is just Liverpool going to do the double? I mean, they're going to win it again. But that's the thing, right? It just takes 2 game weeks to change everything. Now, after our Sheffield United result, we were very lucky that the team below us, they had bad game weeks as well, because the Sheffield result coupled with the Arsenal draw would have just pushed us further down the table. But that was lucky on our part. So at the moment, if you just put a gun to my head and say who's going to win the league, I'm going to have to say Manchester City. But again, you never know what can happen, because City's next few games are Liverpool, Spurs, I think, and then Arsenal. And we have comparatively easy run of fixtures. Again, you can't say anything's easy because Sheffield United was a confirmed 3 points. So that's the thing with Manchester United, right? We lost to only one top 6 side two top 6 sides this season in I think six games. But then we go and lose to Sheffield United. We beat Everton, which no one thought we would the first time around 3-1. So just this season is very difficult to predict. But I'd be very happy if we were in the running, even by game week 32, 34. Maybe that's when I'll finally start looking and start counting start doing the math and seeing how many points they need to drop it for. I'm just enjoying each game week. It's been so long since we've been playing so well consistently, and we're not scraping results. We're actually taking the game to the opponent and beating them. So that's just great to watch for now.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll get on to potential top 4 places in a second, but we've got a question from Ollie Salter. Do you think Luke Shaw is undroppable at the moment? So, Joe, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, no, he is. He's on. If you stop the season right now, he's my player of the season. To be fair, I think he's been absolutely fantastic. I think I was on a podcast the other day, and I was saying that I think when it's really nice to see Luke Shaw doing this, because you feel like he's had a lot more to overcome than some other players. You know what I mean? I think obviously the bad injury that he's had in the past, I think psychologically he's been affected by his performances and his form. I mean, there's no doubt until now he's not really lived up to the promise that he showed when he was a youngster. But he knows about it because he's copped a fair amount of abuse from fans on social media, supporters of our club even, and even the media and his own managers as well. His own managers have obviously called him out in the past, obviously mainly Jose Mourinho. So, I feel like for him to play well, he has to overcome a lot more obstacles than some other players. I think, as much as it being a physical battle for Luke, it's a mental battle as well. And I think it's always nice when you see players come through adversity like he has and play really well, and I think he's been fantastic. I think the key for him has been Alex Telles, to be fair. Although Alex Telles might not look like he's pushed him with his personal performances, I think just knowing that he's there and that he's not a guaranteed starter with someone like Alex Telles in the squad now has really pushed Luke on. It's sort of focused his mind a little bit, and I think that's been a contributing factor to his form. And I think you've only got to look now in some of the recent games. I mean, the League Cup quarter final against Everton when he brought Luke on for 5 minutes, the last 5 minutes, didn't he? And took Alex Telles off, and everyone's like, well, what's he doing? Because if this goes to penalties, you want Alex Telles on the field. But he brought Luke on, Ollie brought Luke on with the intention that he's got the ability to create a goal. And although he wasn't involved in the winning goal that we got near the end there, it happened while he was on the pitch, obviously. So he had some influence. And then you look at how he takes him off at half-time the other day against Southampton. If you wonder how important he is to Ollie at the moment, I think that tells you, because Ollie would have liked to have taken a lot of players off at half-time in that game and rested them, I would imagine, but he had to pick the ones that he felt were most crucial, and he did that obviously by taking Shaw off, and who else? Cavani had to come off because he had a sore ankle, didn't he, to be fair, so that's fair enough, but I think that shows you just how important and how rated he is by everyone at United at the moment. And long may it continue, because it's not only, his performances that are having, they're directly affecting our performances as a team as well. I mean, he's creating a lot of goals now. He got 2 assists, obviously, against Southampton. His crossing has come on leaps and bounds. And I think he's always been a good defensive sort of left. I've never had too many worries about him going backwards. He's just having that energy to go up and down the pitch, and he's showing great ability to sprint up and down the pitch now, great fitness. So I'm hoping that this is a turning point in his career, and I hope he kicks on from here, because he's still quite relatively young and he's still got, plenty of years in front of him to make something of his career. And I think he's actually, if Gareth Southgate was picking a squad tomorrow, I think he's England's first choice left back at the moment. I think he's the best English left back on form without a shadow of doubt.
Absolutely. I think the thing is that he's one that has got a lot of experience playing against the best players when he's been playing. He played against Barcelona and PSG, and obviously the top sides in the Premier League for the last 5 years, 6 years maybe. And he has experience doing that. I see Chilwell more as a wing back than a full back, which is something that Shaw's has been almost said as the opposite of, really. So he defends first, then attacks, and his attacking play has got so much better this season. I remember when he first joined, he was just making all these sprints down the left-hand side. His link up with Depay was brilliant. I mean, it was rash, and that was the issue. It was a bit raw, whereas this is more calculated, and it just shows how far he's come, especially in the last 12 months, really. And you're right. I think we saw what Williams could give him some sort of competition last season, where he had a good burst at the end of last season before that injury against Southampton, ironically. But Telles has really come in and showed that, he can offer some proper competition. Hopefully we can see that with Wan-Bissaka, who's already starting to churn up some really good performances too. Yeah. But let's go back to the Premier League top 4. So we've said, I think we all now have come to a happy reality that we are going to probably make top 4 this season, guaranteed almost. I say guaranteed, but the way we're going, it's looking good. Who else makes your top 4, Suraj? So City, obviously, and is United obvious, or have I jumped the gun there?
Again, I wouldn't say anything is obvious, because you know me and my history of predictions on this podcast have always gone south. So I'm not saying that United are going to get top 4.
It's notably Brighton.
For sure. I had Brighton get relegated. So, but I did say Slaven Bilic will get sacked.
You did that.
Yeah. So I wouldn't say that United will 100% make top 4, but I'd say if we don't, I'll be very, very disappointed, because you can't go from mounting a title challenge, however long or short it was, to not being in the conversation at all. But we've seen how it works. We've seen Spurs challenging, and then Chelsea challenging, and then both of them will have to fight for top 4 all over again. So this Premier League season is going to be I think it's going to be unprecedented, because the entire conditions are different. Players are playing every 3 days, and I think a lot of people, they just take that for granted. And United, very luckily, we got in Cavani to do the job for us. Uh, and I think that could be a very important telling point because without Cavani, just think of the number of points he would have dropped. Southampton away was a definite short loss, and just in general, his influences a lot. So I think we've got the quality to get top four. So mm, I think United can get top four. Sure, I think that's a must this season.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Uh,
who else goes in?
wait, oh, you want? Oh, right.
What's prediction?
Okay,
You're
that's
not
a
getting
tough
away
one.
with it.
I'd say Chelsea look very good under Thomas Tuchel, and again, I don't know if this is their honeymoon period, and again they'll drop off because Chelsea is so inconsistent this season. You can't say anything. Uh, who are in the conversation? There's Leicester, there's Liverpool. Okay, so I'll say Liverpool definitely get into the top four. I don't see them falling out. Maybe they'll get in the last year or whatever, but I just don't see them going out of the top four because champions just having that much of a dip. I don't think Klopp will allow it in the first place. So I think my uh, three of my top four in no particular order would be City, United, and Liverpool. And then, okay, I'll make a slightly bold prediction and say Arsenal get it.
Oh, wow. Well, that is bold.
Yeah.
That's taking me by surprise.
I mean, that would be a sensational
Hence
comeback.
bold.
Relegation to, well, almost relegation form to
Yeah.
to Champions League. We'll see if that's the case. Joe, would you agree with that top four?
Well, first of all, I want to say I think Siraj has been sensible. I mean, this is not the season to be making predictions, really, is it? Because it seems like every time you make a prediction this season, something always goes wrong, doesn't it? Whether it's, I think a lot of people were predicting how Chelsea might do it this year earlier on in the season. Some people were saying Tottenham were in a title race as well, and you look at how far they've fallen off. So I think predictions are very, very dangerous. Look, I'd be disappointed if United didn't make at least a top four now. I'll be honest with you. If they don't get top four from this position here, then you'd have to say, one, that's not progress from last season where we did finish third, and two, you'd have to say that might put the manager's job at risk as well. So I think that's how catastrophic it would be. I think there'd be a change of leadership if they weren't to get top four from here. As whether it's a strange season or not, I think that would be unacceptable. I think we're something like 9 points clear of fifth at the moment, and fifth is obviously West Ham, I think, or something like that, or Chelsea. So I think you shouldn't be losing that position from here. So I think it's obviously Man City, United. I think Liverpool, they will have enough in the end. And then it's really, I think Siraj is right. I mean, they've looked promising under Tuchel, Chelsea, and they have got a favourable run of fixtures coming up as well, where they can sort of put a run together and get some momentum. But then you look at Leicester, and you just think every time I watch Leicester, I'm really impressed by them. To be fair, they look really, really good. They were so unfortunate to miss out on top four last season. If you remember, obviously after Project Restart, well, it was. I don't feel sorry for them too much because we benefited from it. But they struggled. They towards the end of the season they did lose their form, which was a shame for them. But you feel if they can just be a bit more consistent second half of the season this year, they should probably have enough to get that over the line. So it'd probably be United, Liverpool, City, and then Chelsea, Leicester is sort of slashed for my fourth, sort of the fourth team. And if you want sort of an out there sort of pick, I mean, I thought Siraj was quite out there with Arsenal. I think my out there sort of pick would probably be Everton. I think Everton under Carlo Ancelotti, I think they've got a couple of games in hand, albeit quite tough games. I know one of them's against Man City, but they're in and amongst it at the moment. And in Carlo Ancelotti, they've got an experienced manager that knows how to navigate a team through a season, especially a Premier League season. And also they've got players in their squad there that are impressive and know how to play at the top level. So I think if one of the big boys do slip up this year and there is to be a change, and I think Everton or Leicester are the best team to sort of take advantage of that.
I can definitely see either of them getting a strong bit of form and just pushing up. Oh, sorry.
I just like to defend my Arsenal claim over there.
Go for it.
I know it is a bit out there, and mainly because when I see Arsenal right now, not this season, like right now, it reminds me a lot about United last season. And for me, Bukayo Saka is just insanely good. Even though they lost the Wolves game and we trolled them, and I was very happy about it, but they had that game. They were going 1-0 up 45 seconds in, but Bukayo Saka was really unlucky to hit the post, and they were playing that game very well. And then VAR just decided to hand the game to Wolves. And Emil Smith Rowe is insane. He seems like the kind of revelation we had with Mason Greenwood last season, who just comes in and Emil Smith Rowe, even he's young, so he will go through his he'll have a poor patch as well. But I think this season is going to be his breakthrough season. Pepe looks like he's finally arrived. He's finally, he's getting his dribbles and he's getting that final ball out there. And personally, I don't think Arsenal fans will agree with me, but I think they're much stronger without Aubameyang. When Aubameyang went, they were just pausing it. That Wolves game was they were so good in that half, and they were really unlucky to have all those decisions go against them. And apart from that, if you look at West Ham, I don't think they're going to, sustain this run of theirs. I think they will eventually drop off. And Leicester, just last season was unbelievable. I don't know how they bottled that third place and ended up finishing outside the top four. So I'm not saying Arsenal will definitely get in the top four. They need a lot of luck as well. But I see them definitely come game week 34, 35, they'll definitely be in that mix to, get into the top four. And if I'm wrong, I don't really care.
I think in Siraj's defence, Arsenal's improvement has been marked. It's been really, really good. I don't know the facts, but I think if you looked at their form since Christmas, they probably are top four form, to be honest. You know what I mean? Yeah. They have been very impressive sort of since Christmas. So it's not ridiculous to suggest it, especially not this season, of all seasons. I just think the thing with Arsenal is it's just, for me, there's too many players in that squad that Arteta's at the moment is trying to sort of get out of the club, but there's too many in that squad that will let you down when the crunch time comes. So things like David Luiz, like we saw against Wolves. Okay, you might think he was harsh to be sent off at a penalty, but his positioning's all wrong for that goal. So forget about the red card, forget about penalty. His positioning's all wrong. He's out of position, and it's just typical David Luiz. And that's the thing in these big games. There's too many players in that Arsenal team for me that I just think will let Arteta down just when it really matters, if you know what I mean. But I think slowly what Arteta's done, and it's impressive, is he's getting those players out of the club, obviously. Like Solskjaer has at United, obviously they've got rid of Socrates, who's cost them points. They've got rid of Mustafi, who's cost them loads of points. They've got rid of Kolasinac, who's not been good enough. Even Ozil's gone. And slowly but surely now it's a massive window for them in the summer. But if Arteta can keep recruiting well, which I think he has done so far, and bringing more young players through with promise, then I think they'll be a lot stronger next year. And it'll be interesting to see how Arsenal do next year, because I think in Arteta they do have a good coach.
No, I do agree with that. I think that he is taking them forward. I think it's taking a lot slower due to the fact that they have limited funds. Obviously, they were seriously affected by COVID. And I still worry about that defence because, David Luiz was David Luiz. He had an exceptional game against us and then dropped a clanger the next game.
It's the way.
Yeah, Rob Holding's waiting to happen. He just never looks brilliant against the smaller sides. He'll turn up for the big games. I've seen him have a few tussles with Mane and do quite well there, but then against someone like Burnley, he'll get dominated. So it's something that they do need to work on, and I think that's why they might miss out on the top four. I'd hedge my bets on Leicester because I do think Chelsea, without Thiago Silva, who's come off injured against Tottenham, is a massive loss for them. But interestingly, neither of you did mention Tottenham. Is that a no-go at all?
You go first, Raj.
Because off late, when I watch Tottenham, I just struggle to understand where's the next goal going to come from. It's just not there. Without Harry Kane, they don't have an attack, and if you look at it, they don't even have a defense as well. Eric Dyer is just a mistake waiting to happen in defense. So this current Spurs team reminds me about United's third season under Mourinho. I mean, not as catastrophic, but on similar levels where nothing's really gelling together, and then they just get this injury at the wrong time, and everything's just not going to plan. Mourinho has never lost back-to-back home games in his entire career, and he lost one, and he lost back-to-back home games. I think it was to Liverpool and then Brighton. So, and I was talking to a friend of mine who's a Spurs fan, and we were also discussing how Mourinho hasn't made that trademark centre back signing of his that he does at every club, like Eric Bailly with us and Rafael Varane with Real, and I think Zuma with Chelsea. He hasn't done that over here. I don't know. I don't know what's going on, and even the guys he has gotten, the Vinicius, don't even know the second name, and then Gareth Bale, they're just not clicking together. And without Kane, Son isn't doing anything either. So they just don't look like a team anymore.
No, it's weird because I mean we've seen down the years. I mean, Son has always turned up when Kane's got his trademark injury around this time in the season. He's turned up with the goals. I mean, Lucas Moura turned up with a brilliant hat trick in the Champions League semi-final. We've seen him turn up in these kind of games, so it's quite shocking to see them dip so badly when he's not there. But obviously, it's the only difference is the manager and the way they play. So
I was just going to say the manager, Arjun. That's the key. That's the different denominator here. I mean, Pochettino. I mean, we get used to Kane getting injured this time of the season, every season now, don't we? And Pochettino, I think we didn't used to appreciate it at the time, but he used to do a fantastic job at dealing with that. I mean, he got Tottenham to a Champions League final without Harry Kane being fit for a few of those games. So, I mean, it was fantastic how he got around that, but it's alarming for me just how little Tottenham create. They just don't create enough. And then when you haven't got someone like Harry Kane who's clinical like that, you need to create a lot more if you're going to score goals. I mean, Vinicius is going to need 4 or 5 chances again. I think he had a header late on yesterday, didn't he, against... Yeah. If that's Harry Kane and that's the only chance you create in that game, you score it. Harry Kane scores that header and that's fine. But when you've not got Harry Kane, you need to create more to make up for the deficiencies that you've got, replacing Kane in that number 9 position. And it's just, it'd be worrying for me if I was a Tottenham fan, just how reliant they are on one player. Don't get me wrong, we've known for a long time now Harry Kane's Tottenham's best player, and I understand that. And he's a key player if they're going to have any success. Harry Kane's key, but they should be able to manage better than this without him. You know what I mean? They should be able to manage, and they should be creating more without him. I mean, yes, Harry Kane can be creative, and he's very good at providing assists, but, your midfield hasn't changed. Son's still there. You've still got Moura in the squad. You've still got these creative players, apart from maybe Lo Celso. They've got Gareth Bale there. It's just not happened at all since he's come in. So they've got Dele Alli, who they've refused to use. So they've got plenty of creative players there. So there may be an excuse for not scoring goals, but there should be no excuse for not creating any.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's just actually I can't explain it. I don't see why. I mean, Vinicius starting against Chelsea, where they have slow centre backs and they're playing a back 5. Why wouldn't he play Bale or Moura up front, or even have Son up front so he doesn't have to track back every single time Chelsea come forward? I mean, it is questionable. I still think that Mourinho is a brilliant manager and can do wonders still in the top divisions and could win trophies with Spurs. It's just whether either he maybe adapts a little bit more to the circumstances he has. He doesn't have his top striker, his target man striker. Carlos Vinicius isn't quite near the same level as Harry Kane, so maybe he has to change that, or I think it's going to be curtains for their season early doors. I mean, I don't see them doing well against Manchester City the way they played against Chelsea. So it's really worrying if you're a Spurs fan, like Ransom Bants. But it's just disappointing, really, for on that perspective that that they I mean, they looked bright at the start of the season. Like you said, they were in a title race for a bit, but I mean, yeah, it's not looking good right now. Siraj, I mean, you seem to be the one who can predict a sacking. Do you think that Jose Mourinho will go before the end of the season?
No. I don't see that happening because Daniel Levy. Have you seen the Spurs documentary?
Yeah, I did.
All or nothing. Yeah,
it's brilliant.
So Daniel Levy, I think one thing he kept mentioning, I think that's the line he said the most in the entire show, and sometimes I was even a little sarcastic while saying it. Even with Pochettino, is during a meeting he says, "And I hope there's a trophy here next season." And he kept saying that line. I just hope there's a trophy here. And at the moment, I think Jose is the man to get them a trophy. Why I'm not completely dismissing Mourinho right now is because they're still in a final. And if there's anyone who knows how to win a final, it's Mourinho. But here's the catch. They're playing in the Pep Guardiola trophy. So Mourinho will have to, he'll just have to go all guns blazing and win it. For all you know, this could be peak Mourinho. He's probably just forgotten about the league and he's just focusing on that EFL Cup final. And even if they finish sixth this season, say, hey, well, at least I won a trophy better than the other clubs did. And to be honest, that will definitely be a good season for Spurs because they just need to break that spell of theirs that, the whole trophy drought thing. They just need one trophy to change that and then maybe. But because every season that they don't win a trophy is just a mental block. I think the best manager to break that mental block is Jose Mourinho. So I think this season they'll just give it to him. And what will be interesting to see is how much they back him in the next transfer window. Because Levy is not one to spend a lot. So I think this season definitely he stays. Next season, if they crumble, then it'll be, I think, by Christmas time, if they crumble.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's absolutely right. They are starved of trophies, and they do need to get over that issue, which they did have, for many years. And I think it's something that is similar with United. They do just need to get over that block, and then once they've won the first trophy, hopefully they will just flood through. But we'll have to see at the end of the season whether that's the case. Something that is going to happen at the end of the season is obviously the transfer rumours will start flooding in once again. And from our poll, we've had a new request that we look at two centre-backs that we've been linked with for the last 12 months. Jules Koundé for Sevilla and Deo Upamecano for RB Leipzig. Obviously, we've played both of those players in the last 12 months in defeats, unfortunately. But Joe, who would you rather go for? Koundé is, I think, valued at £60 million, although no one else is actually in the race for him, and he's a left-footed centre-back. But Upamecano's got a £42 million release clause, but is linked with Bayern, Chelsea, PSG, the whole lot. So who would you rather have, maybe based on their playing ability?
Well, to be fair, Arjun, I don't really know enough about Jules Koundé. As you said, we played against him in the Europa League. The only thing I remember from that is he's got an extremely long haircut that stops referees from seeing when the ball's brushed against it. That should be a throw-in for United and prevent goals, mate. That's the only thing I can really remember about Jules Koundé. I haven't really got the fondest of memories of him, but look, I've done the fatal thing of looking on YouTube and looking at clips and things like that. That's never the wisest thing to do, I know that, but he looks strong, he looks powerful, he looks athletic. Very similar to Deo Upamecano, to be fair, it's kind of similar profile. And it's interesting because I think that's the kind of defender that United do need to be targeting this year. I mean, we've seen them being linked with people like Milenkovic in the last couple of days, the guy at Fiorentina. I think Pau Torres is another one at Villarreal as well. But the issue when I look at those guys from watching them a little bit more is that they don't really have that sort of pace and power and athleticism that I think we need. If Maguire is going to be long-term for United and they want to build that defence around Maguire, then it's pivotal for me that the next defender that they buy, if they do invest in a centre-back, has got them traits where, like I said, they're quick, they're powerful and athletic to cover for Maguire's lack of pace. I mean, we've seen also in the last week, we've been linked with Sergio Ramos. I mean, it'd be a fantastic personality for the dressing room, you could argue, but he's not getting any quicker, is he? And, if you're thinking about a Ramos-Maguire centre-back partnership, the pace in that would really worry me, to be honest. So I'm not sure about that, but I think I'd have to go for Upamecano if I had to pick one, just because I think he's a bit more proven at the top level. Obviously, he's had a bit more Champions League exposure than Jules Koundé has. He's playing in, obviously. I mean, to be fair, they're both playing in good leagues and good teams in their respective leagues, but I like Dale Upamecano, I really do, and I think at that price is an absolute bargain. I mean, I think he really is. The only issue with Upamecano is how much time and effort do you invest in that signing, because is it already decided where he's going? I mean, a lot of people seem to think he'll go to Bayern Munich, especially if Alaba leaves. It looks like Alaba's leaving, so he seems like the perfect replacement for David Alaba, but there's talk that, other clubs are interested as well. I mean, I heard that Liverpool are quite close to Upamecano. I mean, that'd be scary if they had a centre-back partnership of Van Dijk and Upamecano. I mean, I think that defence would be, it would look incredible. So, Upamecano for me, especially because I think he's slightly better player and also the price.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, Suraj, would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Might have just lost Suraj there.
We've had our fair share of connection issues today, haven't we?
We have, yeah. We might have to just skip over that for a bit, just see if it will come back. But let's just quickly move on to the Everton.
Am I there?
Because all sorted.
Oh, right. Are you able to hear me now? Is it better?
Oh yeah. Go for it.
Okay. Perfect. Were you discussing something? Go ahead.
Upamecano or Koundé? Who would you prefer?
Yeah. I'd definitely go for Upamecano, mainly because I think he's a better player, and physically, I think he'd be better suited to the Premier League. Like Joe was saying, I don't know a lot about Koundé. The only time I've actually seen him is last season's Europa League, and I think when the Europa League resumed, I watched all their games because they were definitely one of the better teams, and he's an amazing defender. But here's the thing, he's just 1 or 2 inches taller than me, and I'm short. So I don't know how well he'd work as a Premier League fullback. But then again, you can use the argument that he's doing it in La Liga, so he can do it here. But I definitely prefer Upamecano over him. But here's the thing, I was very confident we'd get Upamecano over all the other teams mentioned until Bayern entered the race. Because Bayern always get their player. I don't remember the last time they didn't get their transfer target. And exactly, with Alaba leaving, it's the writings on the wall. Alaba is going to go to Real Madrid. Ramos is going to go to some team, which I hope eventually is United, and Upamecano is going to take his place there. So I have completely ruled out Upamecano coming to United, because that's what Bayern do. They take their rival's best player. So of the two, I'd go for Upamecano, but I don't think it's going to happen.
Well, yeah, I think the last time they did actually not get the player they wanted was Alexis Sanchez, and we know how well that turned out for us, really. But let's move on to the Everton preview. Obviously, tomorrow evening it got rescheduled after we were set to play on Monday and then Tuesday with the FA Cup tie. So they thankfully didn't give us a 24-hour gap between the two. It's a massive game, really, because, like you said, Manchester City have a difficult run, which starts with an away trip to Liverpool on Sunday. And so getting 3 points from this game will be massive. Everton obviously played really, really well against Leeds and won 3-1 midweek. And so they'll be in good form, and they know that they can sit back and counter or take the game to United and can cause problems with the players they have. Joe, I mean, who would you start in this game? Would you keep it the same? Who'd you drop from a 9-0 win?
Yeah, it's tricky, isn't it? I mean, I'll be honest with you, Arjun, I wasn't overly happy when I saw the starting lineup against Southampton to begin with. I was probably even less impressed with it after we were playing against 10 men after 2 minutes, because I'm thinking all of a sudden you've got McTominay and Fred on the pitch now that I didn't think you needed at the start of the game against 11, and I certainly probably don't think you need them both there now necessarily. You could get a more sort of attacking-minded midfielder on the pitch, but to be fair to Ollie, he adjusted quite well. I think he pushed McTominay further up the pitch, didn't he? So obviously, once they went down to 10 men, McTominay played more as an 8 or another 10 next to Bruno. And, he adapted pretty well. And he did all right on the night, to be fair, Scott McTominay. I've been one of his biggest critics. I'm not a big fan of his, but I thought he did really well against Southampton. And then, you look at you look ahead to Everton, and I think for me, on current form, they're more of a danger than Southampton. They probably don't play with that same intensity and energy that Southampton do. Like you said, they probably will look to play more on the counter-attack. But I think they might have to keep McTominay and Fred in there for this one, just because of that screen that they obviously offer the defence and give United opportunities to go from there. I think Paul Pogba will come back into the team, and that'll be the interesting thing. How does he come back into the team? Because there's no doubt, obviously, against Southampton, Pogba was just rested. He wasn't left out for anything other than a rest, because he's played 7 games on the bounce. Well, started 7 games on the bounce, I think. So he was due a rest. So I think he will definitely come in. The question is Ollie brave enough, and does he bring him into the double pivot to either replace McTominay or replace Fred? If he does that, I'd rather he replace McTominay, because the stats when Pogba and McTominay play together in double pivot don't make good reading. Pogba and Fred we haven't seen a lot of, surprisingly, as a double pivot. But when they have played, I think the Europa League semi-final last year being one example, we do tend to play pretty well when those two play in that double pivot together. Or you may even look at Pogba Matic. But I think Fred or McTominay will play in this because of the energy and the protection that they give the back four. So then you're looking at, if he does stick with McFred, does he go with Pogba on the left? But then who do you leave out? Because I thought Mason Greenwood was fantastic on Tuesday night, even though he didn't score a goal. I thought, Rashford obviously got a goal and assist, which is good for his confidence. And Cavani at the moment has to play, it seems. He's just playing really well. And you've obviously got Martial, who came off the bench and scored 2. So, he might be ready to start as well while he's scoring a couple of goals. So it's a tricky decision for Ollie, but he has to get Pogba back in that side. It's just how he does it. I mean, the back four stays the same for me. I would stick with, as long as Lindelof's back's okay. I wouldn't change that if you don't need to at the moment. So I'd stick with Lindelof and Maguire. Obviously, short left back, Wan-Bissaka right back. But yeah, it's just where you get Pogba into his team. That's the biggest decision for Ollie now, especially off the back of winning 9-0. It's not an easy one to decide, but it's nice. It's a nice problem to have, I suppose.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I think that's something that we've certainly lacked. We keep saying it this season, but the fact is we're struggling to think of how to get everybody in the team more than how we're going to fill the spots we have available. It's a really nice feeling to have, I think, and I think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer will be happily, racking his brain. I think that he's actually got all these options available. I mean, Suraj, would you agree with that statement? Keep the team the same, bar one change for Pogba, or would you say keep the team the same altogether?
I think keep team same with Pogba in the team. So because I think Pogba was rested against Southampton, so he's definitely going to start. Cavani and Shaw were taken off at halftime. They're definitely going to start. What I would do is I'd drop Martial and Greenwood, and I'd start both of them against West Ham, because for me that's also a very important game and we have to win that. So I'd do the diamond in midfield against Everton because that's how we dominated them both times. Just a one time. I don't think Pogba played the first time round.
No, but Mata played that role, I think. So I think your point, Cap.
Okay, fair enough. So I think fingers crossed. All I know is how to deal with Everton. We've seen it this season. I hope I didn't jinx it. So I think he had that in mind. He had the Everton game in mind, and that's how he picked the Southampton lineup. That's why I think Pogba was given the rest, and I think the lineup kind of writes itself. The only thing I'm interested in seeing is if Lindelof talks of Bailly. I think Bailly will get the nod. So it's going to be pretty much that day. Van Bissaka, Bailly, Maguire, Shaw. So Fred, McTominay, Pogba, and Bruno, Rashford, and Cavani up front.
I'm more inclined to agree with you, Suraj. Apologies, Joe. I think Bailly. Actually, I remember Lindelof getting bullied by Calvert-Lewin a lot the last few times they've played, and I think Bailly really his aggression is fantastic and is just far more confident in the air, and I think that's something that Calvert-Lewin will struggle against. So I think that is where we'd go there, and I think Pogba on the right would be nice because I'd love to see Rashford on the left and Pogba on the right, not Pogba being on the left and Rashford on the right, because Rashford on the right is not as enjoyable or as electric as clearly as Rashford on the left. So
it's a good point you both make as well, because I'm thinking set pieces as well. Obviously, set pieces have been our Achilles heel this year, and you look at Lindelof, he's probably not the best header of the ball, and you look at Everton, they're going to come. And they're very good at set piece, Everton. I think at one stage you see not long ago, I think they scored the most goals from set pieces. You think about how they've got James and Sigurdsson and Digne, all players who are capable of putting good delivery in the box, and then they've got people like Calvert-Lewin, Mina, and Michael Keane on the end of them. So they are a threat from set pieces. So it's probably a good point that you both make about bringing Bailly in actually just to help with that aerial presence at set pieces too.
Yeah, well, I mean, let's hope that we can keep another clean sheet at Old Trafford. I think all of our clean sheets, before the Liverpool game, all of our clean sheets this season in the league had come at home. And then we've got 2 away from home now against Liverpool and Arsenal. And we've kept another one midweek. So hopefully we can keep a clean sheet. But let's talk about the rest of the prediction. Joe, do you see us winning well? Or do you see it being one of those performances where we miss our chances and narrowly get a result, or even something a little bit more negative?
It's a tough one to call in because you think United would be absolutely sort of cock a hoop, to use the sort of English sort of expression of really full of confidence coming into this game. But also, you look at Everton's current form and they're doing really well, and coming off the back of winning a game at Helen Road, that's no sort of mean feat either. They'll be coming full of confidence. They'll have a game plan, and obviously in Carlo Ancelotti, it's going to be difficult to sort of dominate them because he's a good coach and he'll set up in a certain way. But I'm hopeful actually. I think the key for this game is United trying to get an early goal again. If they can score early, United, it will sort of throw Everton's game plan out the window a little bit. And then I think early goals are so key for a team like Man United, because what Man United want is they want teams to come onto them a little bit more, and the only way you do that really is by taking the lead. And then obviously when teams have to come at you, that's when they leave spaces in behind, and that's what United are looking for every game. So I think an early goal is key. I think if United score early, it could end up being a decent evening's work for them. I think they could win 2-0, 3-1 maybe. But the longer the game sort of stays level, I can only see it being a tight affair because Everton no pushovers.
Well, I mean, I will throw a stat your way. The last time we went to Goodison Park first, then the Cup, we then also beat them at home as well, and that was the 2015-16 season. And I think Martial got 2 goals and an assist in 2 games against them. So might be another moment for him. Might be another moment for Barney, who got obviously the winner in the Carabao Cup and his first goal for United in the 3-1 away win. But Suraj, do you see it being a comfortable scoreline, or do you think it will be one of those nervy games?
2015-16 Everton was the Ronald Koeman Everton, right?
No, that was the season after. I can't remember who was in charge of Everton. It was still Roberto Martinez, I think.
Oh, was it? Oh,
yeah.
And we had to beat them. Anyway, I think this game is going to be a little tougher than a lot of people have been assuming, me included, is because Carlo Ancelotti beating him 3 times in the same season is not going to be easy because he's one of the best managers of our generation. He's been with the best players, won it all. So he'll be doing everything to ensure that we don't get a third win over him this season. I feel the important thing is to keep the ball away from Everton because that's what worked for us both times in the previous 2 games. As opposed to with Liverpool, against Liverpool, we were a little comfortable with them having the ball and then, playing on the counters. But in this case, I think we have to hawk the ball, give them as little as possible, and just don't let Lucas Dean or James Rodriguez ping the ball in because that's where our troubles begin. And Luka Dean just gives me those 4-0 PTSDs. His insane shot from outside the box. He's going to be really difficult to deal with, but it's a very good thing that Bissaka has done well against Southampton, so really high in confidence. And Luke Shaw needs to stop crosses, or whoever's playing on the left flank has to track back and just stop. He has the trademark left foot to stop that, and Calvert-Lewin will be no trouble.
Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, so do you see us keeping a clean sheet then, or do you think it will?
Sorry, I forgot to put that. I think we'll still win 2-1.
2-1. I agree with both of you. I think an early goal is crucial. I think if then we can allow Everton to have a little go, but then press really hard and hopefully dispossess them, because their midfield, I don't think it does well under pressure, but it certainly does well off the ball, I think, more. And I think the fact is they are missing Alan, he's a fantastic player, and I think that his loss, and I think also Andre Gomez is a big loss for them too. I'm not sure who they're playing in the midfield pivot. I know it's Decore, but I don't know who the other one is. So, I mean, we'll have to see how that... Is it Tom Davies? Well,
yeah.
He's a red card waiting to happen. I think, honestly, he has some dangerous challenges, and but he's certainly one of those players that can ruffle a few feathers. So we'll see if he causes... I can see him definitely having a scrap with Bruno during the game. I don't know if there's betting odds for that, but I'm sure it's going to be quite...
It's not Tom Davies.
Oh, is it not?
Gomez played against Leeds, and Sigurdsson played in a midfield.
Sigurdsson, yeah.
Newcastle. I just assumed it was Tom Davies.
I mean, he's another one.
Sigurdsson.
Yeah, and he's another one that brings me back to the 4-0 flashbacks and all sorts. But
Sigurdsson seems to be one of them players who seems to score against us. Like I think he scored a couple of free kicks for Swansea, didn't he, against us? And I think he might have scored a penalty against us for somebody as well. So he's just one of those players who likes to play against us, I think.
Like Pascal Gross.
Yeah,
But yeah, I mean, I can definitely see us winning. I don't think it'll be as emphatic as one of those, the 4-0 win that we had under Mourinho early in the second season. But I think we can definitely do some damage and rack up a couple of goals. Certainly if we get an early one, like you say, Joe. But we'll move on to the West Ham game. Obviously, they're in great form right now, especially with one of our loanies who will be unavailable to play, Messi Lingard. But it's going to be interesting to see whether they can fight on all fronts and if they can push for a cup tie. Because obviously we have beaten them the last few times we played them in the cup, in the Carabao Cup when we won it and the FA Cup when we won it. So it's good omens there. Joe, I mean, how many changes would you like to see from the side that plays in the league? I mean, personally, I'd love to see Dean Henderson, Donny van der Beek, Martial, maybe even Dan James if there's if there's space available. But I mean, how many changes would you make, or would you be professional with the selection?
Yeah, I'd like to win this competition, so I wouldn't want to heavily rotate, but I think we will. I think Ollie will probably make 5 or 6 changes, which is sort of standard for cup games. Whereas, to be honest with you, I think especially with this United team, as soon as you start making 2 or 3 changes to it, I think it becomes a bit of an issue. To be fair, when you look at whenever we've heavily rotated over like this season, or even I think the Sheffield United game, we made 5 or 6 changes for that, and obviously that came and bit us on the backside. But there's a couple of other examples. Obviously, I think City in the Carabao Cup semi, we made a few changes for that one as well. I think it just over the last 12 months, there's a few games in the back of my mind where I just think when we seem to heavily rotate, when we rotate more than 3 or 4, that becomes an issue for this team. I don't know if it's chemistry or understanding of playing with each other and things like that. And it's a tough one because, like I say, the league is a priority right now for us. We know that, but it would be nice to have try and win the FA Cup as well. So it's a really tricky decision for Ollie. But I think he will make changes. Yeah, no doubt about it. I don't know who those changes will be. Will he be brave enough to even maybe try and start without Bruno, so he can get away with that? Because at some point you need to try and plot some rest in there for Bruno, because he does seem tired to me. Some games it's less apparent than others, but I do think he could do with the rest. But when are you brave enough to do it? Because I certainly don't want to do it against Southampton. I don't want to do it against Everton, and I probably don't want to do it against West Ham either. But you just feel that you have to try, and it's the lesser two evils, isn't it? If he's got to have a rest, you've got to try and pick the one game where you do it. So it's tricky. And then, but I think I don't think there'll be wholesale changes. I don't think they'll go as deep as someone like Dan James, for example. I think Van de Beek might get a game. But I think they can rotate effectively and give enough players rest without having to go as far down as Dan James. I think, no disrespect to Dan James, but I feel like to get to Dan James starting, you have to make quite a lot of changes to your starting lineup. There is a way of getting around it without having. I mean, obviously we saw Dan James come on late in the game on Tuesday, but they had a lot more options before it got to that. I mean, I think even Juan Mata could start the game before someone like Dan James. So we'll have to see, but there will be changes. I wouldn't want to make any more than 3, but I think if I was predicting it, he will do. He'll make 5 or 6.
Mm. Well, I mean, it is certainly something we saw against Liverpool that did sort of mean that we had a few issues here and there, but I mean, the attacking play was still fantastic. Suraj, I mean, would you say this is our best chance to win a trophy, or would you be hesitant to say that at this point?
I'd be a little hesitant because we aren't getting the easier sides in the earlier stages of the cup like we usually do, because these are the rounds where you're supposed to face. I'm saying supposed to as if it's a rule, but you usually end up getting one of the easier sides. So here's the thing for me, right? For me, how we handle the West Ham game determines how seriously we're going to take this competition. For me, we need to take it seriously because Ole needs a trophy this season no matter what. Manchester United Football Club cannot go 4 years without winning a trophy. That's just not acceptable for me. But here's the thing. After the West Ham game, after the cup game, that horrible Sunday, Thursday schedule to start with the Europa League, and that's where we need to get our team selection spot on. So for me, Pogba definitely starts the West Ham game because he misses Southampton, so he's fit to start 2 in a row. I have a feeling Bruno will get a rest, but we should still be beating West Ham. They're in great form, but come on, I think Manchester United should be beating West Ham. But for me, the team selection for the West Ham game will pretty much determine how we line up against West Brom and then Sociedad and so on. So I think, for example, sorry, go on.
So no, I was just gonna say, if we do start Pogba in the West Ham game, can we just not start him in goal like we did in the league last season? That's all I ask. I just don't want him starting goalkeeper.
It's a valid point.
Yeah.
We'll hopefully start against.
I think Siraj is spot on. I think in the way the Europa League might be a blessing in disguise for United this season, because I think what they can do in the Europa League is they can make big changes, because I don't think, unless they get to the latter stage of that, they're not going to take it seriously. So in these early rounds, the first 2 Thursdays against Sociedad, they might look at it and think, this is a chance to give Diallo a debut, this is a chance to play. They can make some. So almost like your core group of players, the ones you're really dependent on, kind of have that Sunday to Sunday rest. But obviously, if they get knocked out of it early, that also works as well, because then United will have the weeks that there's European football. United will have no game in midweek, and their main rivals like City and Liverpool will be playing sort of on a sort of Tuesday and a Wednesday, won't they? So I think that either way, this could work out quite well for United.
I think in that case, we have to win the FA Cup, because we need a trophy this season.
Yeah, I agree.
I think it's just so massive that they need the trophy. They need to come out of this mental block. They need to win some silverware, because as soon as you win that 1 point, things then start to go a little bit more smoothly. The criticism seems to go down a tiny bit, you'd think. And I think that was certainly the case when we didn't win any silverware in 2017-18, because we played so well. Well, we played to a level in the Premier League. We were knocked out, I'd say embarrassingly, in the Champions League and the Carabao Cup, if you think about the Bristol City tie. And so to get to the FA Cup final and just not turn up, and then for Phil Jones to do what Phil Jones does, was really quite embarrassing. So I think the fact is that we do need to turn up in a trophy. We do need to win one. And hopefully that will get a lot of the critics off this team and actually start thinking, well, this team is going somewhere, because obviously it is, but it's clearly not as apparent to some as it is to others. So that final, not final, but that's certainly that's a big piece in the puzzle is some silverware to show the progress. But I'll push you for predictions. Joe, do you see it being clear cut? Do you see it being narrow? You're on mute.
You're on mute.
That's if you watch me on these shows, I'm the classic at doing that, talking on mute. It's a nightmare. But no, I think, in fact, I've done well. I've got an hour and 17 and not done it. But no, I think, to be honest with you, I think it's a free hit for West Ham as well. And, we've looked at, obviously, our United lineup. I think West Ham will come into that game thinking, let's enjoy it, let's have a go sort of thing, because they've got nothing to lose. Obviously, their league position is quite secure, which is not usually the case for them at this stage of the season. They've normally got another agenda. I think, West Ham can really enjoy the second half of the season and obviously enjoy the game at Old Trafford. So I think they'll come with a bit of intention. So I think it could be a tricky night for United, especially if they make a lot of changes. But you would hope that at home we should have enough. So I never sort of predict against United. I probably should, because I get a lot of predictions wrong. So actually, if I predicted the other team, we might win more. But I do think it'll probably be something like 2-1, but I see it being an entertaining game.
Thank you. Siraj, would you agree with that?
I agree with the fact that I predict us to win, but I'm going to go for a 1-0 dodgy penalty rival tears. I think they'll just block and try to either hit us on the counters or force it to just force the game long enough that they can make use of Maguire's slow turning abilities and just run behind him on the counter or something like that, or maybe push it to penalties. This one goes to penalties directly, right? Without
there are no replays due to COVID. All of them will be extra time penalties.
So I think they'll just push it to penalties, and we'll try to get one of our dodgy penalties, and hopefully our penalty jinx gets over in this game.
Yeah, I'm a bit more confident than that. I think we will win quite nicely. I do see changes being made, and I see points needing to be proven. Greenwood, Martial, Rashford could start this game. Van de Beek, Matic, and Pogba probably. I can see it being something like that, and I can see them certainly pushing West Ham. It's just whether West Ham will. I mean, it depends because they have some injuries. They could lose a couple of players in the next 2 weeks. We know that Antonio has injury problems. Cresswell has injury issues. They might even rest Souček, who's been playing a lot of football recently.
Yeah.
So if they choose to do something like that, I think that's their most dangerous man out of the picture. And obviously, Lingard's cup tied, so he can't play either. So they've got a few issues to deal with, and potentially a few more over the weekend. We'll have to see. I'm not sure who they're playing. But it's certainly, I mean, if they've got big games coming up, then maybe they will rest players in the FA Cup. You never know. But
They have Fulham.
Who do they have?
Fulham.
Okay. Maybe not. I don't know. I mean, I think Fulham will probably try and they need to win. I don't think they've won at home since November, so they're going to want a win and they're going to come guns blazing. So I could see West Ham having the struggle, and maybe you never know, they could get an injury or three, but we'll see. I'd still say a 2-0 win, but it's certainly a big ask for United because they're certainly not going to be pushovers, and David Moyes wants to win trophies and get something back against United. Really, I think he's got points to prove. But I'm afraid that is all we have time for this week. We've gone a little bit over, but a lot to cover. Thank you for listening, and thank you to both Suraj and Joe for joining me. Hopefully we'll see some big wins in the next couple of days, and we can keep being happy for a little bit longer. We'll see. But if you have any topics or questions you'd like for us to discuss on the next podcast, please comment below on the live posts or on the YouTube live chat. And if you enjoyed this, please like this video, subscribe